Iran's own hardline factions have now turned their anger inward, with the emerging US-Iran peace understanding facing fresh uncertainty as conservative groups accuse Tehran's negotiators of betraying the country's interests. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has been branded a traitor by hardline protesters who claim that concessions made during talks with Washington amount to surrender, despite the agreement being presented as a path to ending the devastating conflict. Chants of death to Araghchi have echoed through parts of Iran as hardliners mobilize against the proposed deal, exposing deep internal divisions over whether diplomacy with the United States comes at too high a cost. President Masoud Pezeshkian has moved to calm domestic tensions and defend the negotiating team, but renewed pressure from Donald Trump and political backlash inside Iran have complicated efforts to secure a lasting agreement.
It's a disgrace. They stand in front of Parliament and say that anyone who negotiates is a traitor and a seller of the homeland, and so on.
The political atmosphere inside Iran has turned increasingly tense after Donald Trump and Mojtaba Khamenei reportedly moved closer to a tentative agreement aimed at ending the regional war, triggering fierce backlash from hardline factions inside the country. Iranian hardliners reportedly demanded the execution of Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi over his role in negotiations with the United States, accusing Tehran's diplomatic team of crossing red lines in pursuit of a deal with Washington. Protesters took to the streets and accused Araghchi of making dangerous concessions to the United States, raising fears that Iran's negotiating position was being weakened for the sake of securing a peace agreement. Hardline groups reportedly organized rallies in Tehran and Mashhad against the emerging US-Iran deal, portraying the negotiations as a surrender to American pressure rather than a diplomatic victory. The protesters also accused Iranian negotiators of sacrificing the country's national interests and revolutionary principles, highlighting the deep internal divisions over Tehran's efforts to reach a deal with Washington. Meanwhile, Iran's leadership warned that growing political divisions at home could weaken Tehran's hand in sensitive negotiations with the United States, as the government sought to prevent internal disputes from undermining its diplomatic strategy. President Masoud Pezeshkian called for national unity ahead of crucial talks over Iran's future relationship with Washington, stressing that political factions must remain aligned behind decisions taken by the country's leadership. The Iranian president condemned accusations that the country's negotiators were betraying the nation, calling such attacks a disgrace and warning that public infighting only benefits Iran's adversaries. Pezeshkian strongly defended the path of diplomacy even as hardline groups intensified their criticism of the negotiating team, arguing that constructive debate was acceptable but branding diplomats as traitors crossed a dangerous line.
Mr. Pezeshkian, emphasizing that any decision regarding war and negotiations rests with the leader and the Supreme National Security Council. All political currents must consider themselves bound to follow decisions based on the views of the supreme leader of the revolution.
The country can stand on its feet only when everyone is doing their part, not when some people come along and, so to speak, through pressure. It's a disgrace. They stand in front of Parliament and say that anyone who negotiates is a traitor and a seller of the homeland, and so on. Fairness is a good thing too, and so is decency. I am absolutely confident that we can quickly bring Iran out of this crisis. No one has said that we want to reconcile with America. We will do our own work. What is the need to go and start conflicts? In the end, there has to be someone in the country who has the first and the final say. That is something I believe in. We invited you here so that you can better know some of the realities facing the government and society. Let us find some common ground, and then help ensure that the unity and cohesion within society are not disrupted.
A senior political analyst has alleged that Israel has derailed US-Iran deal efforts at least 5 times, blocking understandings that were close to conclusion. Ahmad Abshinas claimed that Washington and Tehran came close to agreements on 3 separate occasions under President Biden, only for those efforts to be disrupted. He also argued that 2 additional breakthroughs were nearly reached under the Trump administration, but those 2 failed to materialize amid Israeli resistance. According to Abshinas, Iran now insists that a Lebanon ceasefire be formally included in any future US-Iran deal, tying the Northern Front directly to nuclear and sanctions talks. He contended that Israel has deliberately kept the Lebanese front active in order to complicate diplomacy, using ongoing clashes to narrow the room for negotiation. Abshinas further claimed that Israel continues military pressure even though Lebanon has accepted key ceasefire demands, suggesting that the objective is to maintain leverage, not end the fighting. The analyst added that Tehran is unlikely to abandon allies such as Lebanon during negotiations, meaning Iran will keep their interests on the table in any talks with Washington. In his view, any future deal may hinge on whether the US can genuinely balance between Israel and Iran, rather than allowing one partner to repeatedly veto emerging agreements. Israel told Trump it does not consider itself bound by the Lebanon-related clause included in the agreement, yet reported. Israeli officials said the Prime Minister made clear that Tel Aviv would not back down in its campaign against Hezbollah. Netanyahu also told Trump that Israel would not withdraw from its current military positions inside Lebanon. Israel said the IDF would continue striking Hezbollah targets and destroying infrastructure it considers threatening. Officials said Netanyahu received the full backing of Israel's security cabinet regarding the Lebanon issue. Senior Israeli officials said they expect possible pressure from Washington following the US-Iran agreement,